Yours. Okay, so today we're going to look at as much as we can, as much as I can recall about table conversions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project specifically to hold this table conversion. And it's going to be BBBO8. Project for table conversion. It's going to be 55. I'm going to say, okay, make the project. Okay, there's my project. And in this project, I currently don't have anything. And I'm going to add. Now, a table conversion is also a batch application. And it still starts with an R and 55, and I'm going to call it AB01. And then I like to append it with a T so that I know it's a table conversion. And I'm going to go ahead and name it. It's going to be address book data. Product code and product system code are 55. And I'm going to make it a table conversion. And so just as a reminder, a table conversion allows me to work with data much more efficiently than a report. A UBE will typically output data, present data, where a table conversion allows me to work with data. So in this case, what we're doing is we're going to be providing a flat file that another company is going to use this data, and they're going to import it into their system to provide some sort of service for us. I currently have a client where they're doing where the client is providing customer information, and they're providing what is it? Collections. They're collecting monies for the client. And so one of the things that we send them are all the customers we have. And then in another interface, we'll send them for each of those customers that we have, we're going to send them their open invoice or open invoices, which means unpaid invoices. And as they get older and older, that's when the company starts to get involved and says, hey, you haven't been paying this, what's going on, and things like that. So there is an example. And so there are 3 interfaces that we're sending to this company to provide that service for us. One is called customers, where we just send them customer information. One is called contacts, where we're providing all the primary and secondary contacts for those companies that we've been working with. And then there is one called all items, which basically sends them information, sends this this company providing the service all the open invoices and all of the recently closed invoices that are newer than say 5 days or something like that. And they take that and they use it to go reach out and see what they can do to get to collect the monies owed. So, and what we do is we extract the data from our database system, and we then send it, we FTP it to the company. We send it electronically, basically, and they have to have it in a certain format. So we're going to go in and I'm going to show you some of the requirements they have. So, because this is first time coming in here, we have the table conversion director, just like we did for the universal batch engine director. In this case, it asks us, what kind of conversion do you want to do? We can do data conversion, which is converting it from something in a database to a flat file. We can do data copies, where we copy basically from one environment to another, from one table to a different table. We can do deletes of data to clean up the system. That one's a very rare one. I'm not sure I've ever seen or even heard of a batch delete table conversion. So anyway, we're going to do a regular data conversion. And of course, we're going to, right now, we don't have any processing options selected. Now, we might consider doing, since I'm doing this for address book, we might do this and put some paths that are going to diverge depending upon whether we're working with employee data, customer data, or vendor data. So, but for now, we're not going to add any processing options. And we don't need to define a data structure at this time. So we're just going to hit next. And now this is very interesting. We can now see one of the values of table conversion, in that we can copy these are all the environments in the system for the client I happen to be on right now. And that's a lot of different environments here. And notice that one side is the input environment, as one is the output environment. So I could actually copy data from one environment, like the DV environment, and copy it to the PY environment as an output, and it would be very simple to do. But 90% of conversions will basically be extracting data based on the environment that you're logged into. And so what's really nice about this option is it only depends on what environment you're logged into. So if you're typically, users can be logged into the dev environment, the prototype environment, which is the PY environments, and production, which are the PD environments. And so when they're logged into each one of those, if the login environment is the environment that's highlighted here, then you don't have to go changing the report when you want it to work in a different environment. It just naturally follows based on the fact that you've deployed it to all the environments and then you log into that environment. So we're going to leave it at login environment and hit next. And then selecting the input. Now, this is also very telling of what table conversions can do, because we can select that the data that we're going to use as input for this conversion be a particular table or even a business view. And as if you remember, a business view can actually tie a bunch of tables together to pull that data. Now, there's also something called foreign tables. And this could be, I've done this once where they had an external system which read emails. And if the email was formatted and sent to a certain email target location, then they knew there would be a file in the email that was attached in the email that they could extract the data and put it in a foreign table for us. And we'd read that table and bring it into our system, and they would order special parts with it. And in this case, they were DNA strings, genetic strings. And then we have the ability to just read text files as well. And we can specify those text files here, but then we have to define the format that we're going to be reading. And we're going to do that on the output side. The input side, we're just going to make it simple and use address book and type in F0101. And I'm going to hit the enter key and it finds it. Okay. And so I'm going to click that. And now that I double clicked it, it moved it over into the description, and I'm going to say next. Now the data sequencing, I could choose to data sequence, but right now I'm not going to worry about it. I can always go back and change one of these features if I realize I need it later and haven't implemented it. Okay. Data selection, we're going to leave that blank for now. I'm going to hit next. Okay, now we're going to the outputs. Now the outputs here is not quite as many options as the inputs, but there are tables, there are foreign tables, like we said, and there's text files. And we're going to make a flat file, a text file. And we are going to select, we're going to name it address book output .tx, or no, let's make it look like a CSV. So we're going to make a CSV type output, and we're going to say use, and it's going to move it over here. But now we have to define that output. We have to say, okay, what do we want the output to look like? So we're going to click on user defined format here before we go any further. And it's going to say, okay, here are your options. You can make it delimited, you can make it fixed width, or you can make it XML for the format types. Okay. And for row formats, we can choose to have one single format, or we can have multiple formats. Since we're keeping it simple, we're just going to do single format, and we are going to select delimited. because you guys know what a CSV stands for, right? Either of you know what CSV stands for?
Comma separated value.
Comma separated values. So, and separated is just the same as delimited. So we're going to click next, and notice it defaults to comma, but you could separate each of the fields by a whole lot of other options. And then if the field happens to be text, you could say, I want to, anytime text is output, I want you to put either single quotes or double quotes around it. And we're not going to do that right now, but we are going to select this option down here where the first row contains the column headers. And so we're going to grab that. Now, before I hit that next, I'm going to remind myself what address book looks like or what data I can get out of it. So I'm going to Universal Table Browser and typing F0101. And I'm just going to start looking at the data. And let's see, so AN8 looks like a good thing. Alpha looks like a good thing, so I'm going to move that over. Just for confidentiality purposes, I'm going to leave the tax out of there. I'm going to look at their business unit. This is their business unit. And you guys remember what this one's for, right? Who can tell me that one? AT1? What's that, Steve?
I forget.
Search type. AT1, we're using that all the time, so. And that's enough for right now, those 4 fields. We're going to use those 4 fields. So I'm going to go back to table conversion. I've selected comma delimited to display the column headers and no textual qualifier. I'm going to hit next. And now I have to sit there and create the format. So I am going to start adding records in here. Like column 1, I want it to be the address number. And I know that it's going to be a number that's up to 8 long. And I'm going to say, okay. Now, if at all you are unsure how I came up with that, one of the really nice things about this is I can go to each of these data fields, and if I right mouse click in the header here, it will tell me about it. It's an address number. See, it's a size of 8 and it's math numeric, which is the same as a number. So a number size 8 is perfectly appropriate for all the possible values of this AN8 number. And while I look at it, alpha is size 40 and it's a string. Business unit is a string of 12. And then the search type, address type 1, is a string of size 3. So I'm just going to select those sizes as I continue on here. So I'm going to add the name, and it's going to be a length of 40, and it's a string. So I'm going to say, okay. I'm going to add the business unit. And that was size 12, and it was a string. I am going to add a business unit description, so it tells me what business unit it is. So just to be on the safe side, I don't know what size it's going to be, but I'm going to guess it's 40. So I'm going to say BU description. And I'm going to just set it at 40 for right now. And then that last string was search type. And that was a length of 3. And then if I don't remember what the search type code means, I'm going to add the search type description. And I'm going to say that's about size 30 string. So this is the output that I'm going to be looking for. And I'm going to say next. And okay, so now it shows me all together what the user defined formats are for each of those fields. And I'm going to say, good, I'm good with that. So I'm going to finish it. And so now that my address book output has been defined, I'm going to click next. And then it says, okay, what kind of table options do you want? Okay. And so I'm reading through there. If you want currency triggers to be run for all tables, check the box below. Well, I don't have any money in there, so I'm going to turn those off. If you want the output tables to be cleared before the inputs are processed, I'm going to leave that blank for now. Whenever possible, table conversion will perform an insert from select to speed up processing of records. If you want to prevent this behavior, click the box below. I'm just going to leave that where it is. And buffered insert is recommended if you don't need to handle insertion errors by yourself. That looks good for me too. So I only turned off the run currency triggers, and I'm going to hit next on the table options. Okay, so now I have to build the mapping. Now, for here, I could change the look of the output so that it doesn't look at the file, it looks at each line, and it allows me to map it. So, well, heck, let's try that. I'm going to hold my cursor down on the input address number and pull it over to address number, and look, it mapped it. That's really cool. And the name, I'm going to do that with alpha. And then I'm going to find business unit and map that. And search type, let me make sure that's AT1, it is. So I'm going to map that. And okay, that's a good start. Let's see what that looks like. So let's see, issue a right for this event. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and say yes and hit next. And here's logging options. I'm just going to leave those blank for now. We can always come back to those. And yes, I wanted to create a version for me, a base version, because I can't run it without a version. Table conversion needs to be saved before version creation. Save the conversion. I'll say okay. It saved it and it finished it. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's give that a try. I have to remember what that was. I called it R55AB0T. So I'm going to try running that now. Go into my design area and I'm going to go over to versions list. And I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to select advanced. Well, I'm going to override the location. And I'm going to change the properties because I don't want it to run wide open because FO101 is a really big table. So I am going to then click on submit, say I want it to run local. And now I want to leave it at the login environment, only I'm going to add data selection where let's see, what kind of selection could I use? I'm going to select where the alpha name is equal to, and I'm going to do a range of values where it's equal to from where it starts from B to C. And let's see what happens. And I'm going to say, okay. That finished the data selection. Now, table options, logging options, debug options, that all is okay right now. I'm going to hit okay. And then it's running down here. It looks like it taken a good amount of time there. Oh, okay, it's finished. Now, here's one of the interesting things. I'm going to open a file explorer because I know it's going to make a flat file. And I'm just going to tell you where it is. It's going to make a flat file. If I don't specify a directory, it's going to create an export directory under DV920. And look, there's my address book output.csv. And I'm going to double click on that. And it's going to look, it runs Excel. Pretty cool. Only I didn't get any output.
Because there are no names that are just B and just C, right? You'd have to put an asterisk after B and an asterisk after C.
Let's give that a try. So I'm going to go to run this again. Properties, override location, submit. Want it to run local, data selection. Let's try that. B asterisk to C. Let's just do that. Let's see if the B asterisk say okay. and okay. And it's running.
Submit. You don't have to submit it.
I did submit.
Hmm.
It's kind of like reverse Polish notation on a calculator.
I have no idea what that means.
So there's some calculators where you have to put 3 enter 3 times, and that will actually be 3 times 3. And most of the new calculators just say 3x 3 equals, it just means I'll do this one more time. So if I click on this and click on properties and override location, I'm hitting the submit button ahead of time before I tell it where I want it to run and what data selection I want it to do. And so it's actually running again here. So I'm going to go to my export directory. And let's see if anything.
No.
Well, it did put in the headers twice now. So I'm going to go back into design real quick. And I'm going to go to back to the table conversion properties. And let's see, it's under table options. Remember, there was if you want the output tables to be cleared before the inputs are processed, check the box below. So I'm going to tell it, I wanted to basically erase the file before writing more data in it. So I'm going to change that to clear output tables, and I'll say, okay. Now I have to figure out something about that data selection. So I'm going to save that and exit, go to my version list, double click, properties, override location, and submit. And then under the data selection, you know what? I'm just going to make it where the single value, if it starts with a B, I'm going to see if that works. I don't know. Let's give that a try. And there it's running. And okay, let's see. So it updated the time, so I know it's a new file. Go in there. And it's still nothing in there. All right, so we're gonna try and do something different. We're going to change the data. So, well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's see if there is any fields. Well, see, there should be a whole lot of fields where it starts with a B. So we have to kind of figure out what's going on with this. But I'm more interested in getting some output. So we're just going to How about this? How about if I say it's greater than B and the IC, the alpha name is less than C. And we'll go with that. Let's see if that provides us something. I'm going to go look at the file. Sometimes you can see it grow. And that would be a good indicator. No, it doesn't look like it. Still nothing. All right, we're going to have to take a different tact on this. Instead of looking for that, I'm going to delete that line and I'm just going to say, let's see where the search type, that's AT1 search type, is equal to, and let's just look at employees and see what happens. We got to get some data there, right? This is not working for me. So we're going to try something different. Instead of I'm going to see what's in the code. I'm going to go to, every time it fetches a row, I'm going to see what it's doing. So we're going to go to advanced DR. Oh, it's not doing anything. So I guess we need to go in and map each of those individually. So I am going to do a bunch of assignments. And if you remember what those fields are, the first one was AN8, address number. I want to set the output column address number to the input column address number and say okay. And then I'm going to repeat that for the name. Oh, it's output. The name is equal to input alpha. And what was that? Business unit. So I'm going to do it equals output business unit equals MCU. And oh, you know what? Maybe because there wasn't an issue to write for this event. If I do that and go in here, it added a line for me, so. So that's a special system command. So maybe this will get it for us. So I'm going to save that and see where we are with this. Going to try running it. Properties, override location, submit, local, login environment, data selection. You know what? I'm going to, yeah, let's just do that. See what comes out. Go to my file here. It's running. Oh, look, it's got a size now. So that's a good sign. We're getting data. And it finished. So now I can open this. And that doesn't seem right. It's just a whole lot of lines of zeros. That's really weird. So let's take a closer look at what's happening. Every time it fetches a row, it's going to pause and say, what do you want to do with that? I'm going to plug the address number into my output field. That's correct. And then it's going to insert the row. So maybe we need to debug this. And we can do that when we go to properties and we'll say submit, override local. Our data selection is equal to E. Let's see what our logging options are. Oh, there's debug logging. Okay. So I am going to I'm going to have it trace and let's see what happens here. I'm going to say okay. And did it finish? Looks like it finished. 9:24, that's the right time. We'll probably still get zeros. But let's see if we can find a log file for this thing.
I don't think it has to do anything with those warnings at the top, do you?
No, I don't, only because the because that's an Excel issue that I've had. They never licensed this. It hasn't been licensed in so long. So let me see what's in my JDE debug log. Nothing there. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything there that's worth anything. I'm going to see if this is different. And I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run this. Data selection is E. Oh, let's see, where did export go? Oh, 140 kilobytes, that's even better. Let's see what we have now. Okay, so there's our output. So let's talk about what we did is if we're outputting an entire CSV, I guess that it's lost track of what all those previous records are since it only remembers one record at a time. So we have to output one text line at a time. Can we map like this? Search type. There we go. If I go to and so if we output one text line at a time, then we can have this work for us. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's run it one more time. (927) date on here. 9:30. There we go. Okay, well, now we got search type in there. So as you can see, it didn't take us much to get the output we're looking for. I will have a much better explanation of why one way worked and one didn't. I've actually worked at several clients where it didn't make sense and I had to figure out which way this worked to get it to work. And I still couldn't tell you except by that I succeeded by trial and error over and over and over and over and over again. So we will continue on this path, but for now I am going to stop the recording, and then we'll see if you guys can build one for yourselves.